Hey guys! Today I want to talk about some culture shocks that we experienced when we moved here to Scotland. One of the first things that we noticed since we arrived on a holiday was how seriously they take their holidays here. We were a bit jet lagged and our sleeping patterns were all messed up, so the first morning after we arrived here was January 1st, and we walked from our Airbnb to the main street in Edinburgh, which is Princess Street. It's the main shopping street, it has traffic all the time, it has amazing monuments, it's completely gorgeous, it has restaurants, it has tourist shops, and all of those were closed. Now we arrived very early in the morning, like I said, our sleep patterns were all messed up, but still, we were literally the only ones on the street. Not another soul to be found. I personally love this culture shock. I love that you aren't forced to work all the time. Like in the US, we don't really get many days off, but I'm going to be talking more about that in a video about working here in Edinburgh or the UK in general versus working in the US. Another thing we noticed really early on was how seriously people take their cues here. One of my friends who went to uni down in England warned me about this before we came over here. She told us that we should never ever cut lines, which we honestly never do anyway, but we didn't realize how many more lines there would be. In the US, if you're at a bus stop, everybody just hangs out, and then once the bus comes, everybody makes their way onto the bus, everybody's gonna get on eventually, so there's no real point in forming a line. But even at the bus stops, you form a queue and you wait, and even if there's people in front of you that aren't going to that particular bus, you just kind of tap them on the shoulder or something and say, hey, are you taking the 3? And then if they say no, then you just step in front of them once that's arrived. Friendliness and customer service. Joe and I met when we were both working at Verizon Wireless. Their sister company, Vodafone, is here in the UK. And when we went in there to get our phones sorted out and to get some SIM cards, we overheard an issue that another customer was having. From our experience in the US, if that person had the same issues in the US, they would have gotten really angry. Things definitely would have escalated. He and I both exchanged a look like, uh-oh, fighting's about to happen. We were shocked when instead a gentleman said that, Vodafone screwed up or some service issue happened. I can't remember the exact issue, but it was on Vodafone's end, and the customer just said, you know what, it's fine, things happen sometimes, it's totally fine, and was totally relaxed and understanding and just amazing. They're so friendly here. The customer service is outstanding, absolutely impeccable. There doesn't seem to be a sense of entitlement like there is in the US, especially from customers with big organizations. When I worked at Verizon Wireless in the US, and this one woman was asking about different prices for Bluetooths, I looked at one Bluetooth and I was like, I think that one's in your price range, but I'm not entirely sure. So I went and I checked later on after she said that that was the one that she liked, and it turned out to be $10 more than what she wanted to spend. Instead of being understanding that I'm a human being and I can make a mistake, and I did say to her that I wasn't entirely sure, she actually said that she wanted to speak to my manager because she wanted to be given that Bluetooth at the price that I had stated. That sort of reaction in America is much more common than we've witnessed here. And another example of the friendliness that we had experienced right when we got here is also an example of another culture shock that we experienced: the language. That day that we walked to Princess Street, originally we actually stopped and stood at a bus stop for a little while, and another gentleman started walking down the street, saw us standing at the bus stop, and instead of continuing walking, he just immediately stopped and said to us, oh, the buses don't start until 10:30. And we said, oh my God, thank you so much for letting us know, that's so kind of you to go out of your way like that. And he said bye, we said bye, and then Joe and I turned to each other and we were like, what does 10:30 mean? Is that 9:30 or is that 10:30? We had no idea. Obviously in Scotland they speak English, but it's such a different type of English. We knew the common ones, like elevator is a lift or a bathroom is a toilet, things like that. But then we started learning the new ones, like band-aids are plasters, and shopping carts are trolleys, a stroller is a pram. We speak the same language, but we speak a different version of the same language here. Censorship on TV. This was something that I experienced that 8 or 9 years ago when I was in London for the first time. That was my first time out of the US, that was my first time in the UK, and I remember watching TV and they said words that I can't say on this video or else I'm gonna have to rate it like 18 or mature or whatever. They curse and say words that we're not allowed to say in the US on television unless it's on specific channels where they know that it's going to have adult content. They give warnings ahead of time for those TV shows, and it's usually after like 10 p.m. or so. Here, I was told that it's more common after 9 p.m., but even still, there are certain ways that we in the US have to censor or say things. If you watch How I Met Your Mother, that's a really good example of censorship. They use it in the way of like, oh, he's talking to his kids, so he's censoring for that. But no, it's more so because in the US, when it comes to television shows that they want to be family friendly, they don't curse. Lack of religion. In the US, even though there's supposed to be a separation of church and state, the United States is a very religious country, specifically a Christian country. Joe and myself being atheists, we didn't really fit in the US when it came to that stuff. Now, it's more common in the younger generation to not be religious, but it's not socially acceptable to really say out loud that you are atheist or that you're agnostic, and for it to just be, okay, that's your belief, that's fine. Most of the time, when people knew me for years and then found out that I was atheist, they would literally take a step back, like I was contagious. They would question my morality, like I can't be a good person unless I'm doing it because I want to get into heaven. And it's very different here. And for me, it's such a relief because when I first arrived here and I would tell my classmates that I was atheist, I was literally shaking, and that's not an exaggeration. And this isn't just the response that I had always gotten. I would physically get so nervous to tell people that I wasn't religious. I was raised to be Roman Catholic, but at the age of 13, realized that I was atheist, and I've been atheist ever since. I didn't want to be ashamed of who I was. When I started admitting to people that I was atheist, there actually are people that stopped speaking to me. They wouldn't know how to respond to an atheist. And I got a lot of people that tried pushing their religion on me, and I studied Christianity. I studied all of these other religions, actually. I even took religious courses in college. I've tried being other religions, and the people who were trying to push their religion on me had never done any of that. Here, however, when I was so nervous to tell my friends that I was atheist, they were like, oh yeah, you know. It's like incredibly common in Europe, in our area anyway. It's much less common in Mediterranean parts. It's very common in Eastern Europe to be atheist. It's very common in the Scandinavian region to be atheist. It's such a relief to me, and I don't get incredibly nervous. I'm still nervous putting it on the internet that I'm an atheist, but we'll see what kind of comments I'll get. But I don't feel judged here. I feel much more able to be myself and to be open about my atheism and not as pressured. It's very, very nice. It's refreshing. And I want to end on a very light note here. The last culture shock that we experienced was drinking in the streets. It is completely legal in Scotland to drink in the streets. A lot of foreigners don't know this, and they wish that they did. You can walk around with a beer and pop it open and drink it just anywhere. You can leave a bar with a drink and walk around. This is not the case in Glasgow. Don't go to Glasgow and think that you can drink in the streets, but I believe every other part of Scotland you can actually drink in the streets, and it's completely legal. So those are the culture shocks that we experienced here. Nothing crazy, nothing major. We're probably gonna have enormous ones when we get to Japan, which I'm very excited about. I wanna know if you guys have moved to a different place or even just vacationed in a different place. What kind of culture shocks did you experience? I would love to hear all about them in the comment section below. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you are already subscribed, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I can't believe that I have over 200 subscribers. That's crazy. And I have over 200 subscribers in the same year that I hit 100 subscribers. So thank you guys so, so much. I don't know why you like watching me, but thank you for liking me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Bye.